Mum and backwards tea. It better be delicious.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Having a look, Bitcoin still just going sideways after that massive, exciting pump around the ETFs and the race between all these Wall Street veterans to get into crypto with the ETFs. In fact, we have more big ETF news. In fact, the race is heating up. There is a bit of a surprise. There is a bit of a twist to the story. We're going to talk about that. Also, it's not looking that good for the SEC, so we'll get into why that is specifically. Having a look, though, Bitcoin, of course, is looking a little bit boring right now. We do have $7 billion in Bitcoin and Ethereum options expiring tomorrow, so we could have that short-term potential volatility, but don't get too comfortable, my friends, because outside of this, there is also another reason why we could see some insane Bitcoin volatility, and also I do want to talk about a specific pattern that looks like it is evolving, as well as taking a sort of just bigger look at the macro, stepping back, putting our emotions aside and asking ourselves, is this truly the start to a bull run, or are we just getting a little bit too excited? So all of that today, if that sounds good to you. You know what to do if you're not subscribed. Well, you are missing out because we have been talking and going over a lot of things, and obviously I couldn't make a video yesterday, so I was attempting to travel. It is ridiculous right now, specifically on the East Coast. It's basically impossible to get on an airplane. I even tried getting a hold of a private jet, and they couldn't do it. So it was just absolute madness, guys. But anyway, I digress. You know what's really weird? This actually happened once before around July 4th as well. I noticed that maybe it's just this time of year. So anyway, guys, this is the thing right here. I want to zoom in on the weekly candle. So can you guys see this weekly candle? Can you see what we're doing? If I turn everything off, this weekly candle, you see how it's like it's like a perfect plus sign, okay? That is interesting because basically that means that we're very indecisive of where we want to go this week. We opened up pretty much right here, and then, we went up, we went down, and then we came right back to the previous candle close. So this is sort of interesting. This is telling me that the markets really don't know what they want to do, right? They go up, they sell, they go down, they buy. They're kind of just hanging out in the middle. The fact that we're not dumping, I would say that that is a good thing. But of course, you could see we are at the very top of this blue zone. So we could have a potential retest down around the $28,000 to maybe even down to the $26,000 area. There's a CME futures gap much lower. Will we close it though? Not too sure this time, guys, because as I said, that gap was actually formed off of the closing of another gap. So maybe they cancel each other out. But we are forming this sort of, you could say now it's like a flag pattern, right? And yeah, possibility, could we fall back down to this area, maybe get supported here? But for the most part, it's not a bearish pattern. It's just sort of like consolidation. Again, I've been talking about these lower time frames. I don't want to bore you, but I kind of want to zoom out and look a little bit at the more of the macro. Right now, I know it's fun to look at the 2-hour chart all day, but you can see we have these Ichimoku cloud right here, and that's sitting at around, well, it looks like it's a little bit higher than where it was yesterday. So currently that's around 32. It was sitting at around 31. But again, we said yesterday, anything closing over 32 would be great, right? Because we are expecting to get this golden cross sometime around maybe in August, potentially, for the moving averages as the MACD has crossed over. But look at these Heiken Ashi candles. You could see, generally when you get on a roll, you get a lot of greens. You tend to get a red, and then you go to the downside, you get a green, maybe a little fake out, and then you usually start to the upside, right? These are like the trend candles. A lot of people like trading with Heiken Ashi. I use them sometimes. And you could see that we clearly are on an uptrend. We haven't had any red candles to give us any clues that maybe we're looking to roll over the other way. In fact, if I look at this long-term monthly on some of our favorite indicators, you notice that there is this confluence that you're seeing right here where, we had this moving into the white, this moving average, you can see right here, coinciding with the yellow VWAP on the market cipher. And you can see we had that green dot, and then we went into the white. And if we come over here, same thing. We had the green dot, we came over into the white, VWAP started crossing up, And what happened? Well, when that happened, from that point, just to kind of point it out, and we're a little bit past there, so it would be the equivalent of maybe being somewhere here, so could that be a mini top out? Possibility. Keep your eyes on whether or not we get that on the super guppy. But like I said, for the most part, we're above the major areas like we are down here on the EMA ribbon. And again, we just basically have to get above this trend line on the linear. So like, again, I know you're probably like, what am I doing? I'm just rambling. Again, there's not really much to talk about because the charts really are showing the same things that they've been showing us. You could see how low we are. Yes, we got a spike, but where are we right now? We're currently at 29 out of 100 on the CBBI. So the lower the number, this suggests that, in other words, like the higher you get, like 90, 99, right? That's like you're getting really overheated. We're only at 29, 30. Also, the pi cycle top indicators. So basically, anytime these two moving averages catch up, basically when this lower one catches up to this higher one, so you can see right here, that was calling for the peak. You can see right here, this was calling for the peak. Again, up here, this was calling for the peak. And zooming in right here, I don't know if you could see this, we're nowhere near having this lower moving average, getting up to the other moving average at all, right? We're not even close. So this suggests from that perspective that the top is not necessarily in. Also, you're seeing the Bitcoin dominance still continuing to go up, looking like it wants to break above 52.1, which would be the highest we've seen. And it would also coincide with this support flipping resistance. So crazy stuff. TED Talks Macro, he was even talking about the bull market versus the bear markets and looking at the spikes in the dominance. And when you tend to see these spikes in Bitcoin dominance, you actually see 2017 bull market, right? And then the bear market, it drops down here, starts to spike, echo bubble, maybe, boom, okay? Bull market, boom. So, are we at that point again right now? Could be, guys. We don't really know, right? But nevertheless, guys, it does still look like we're on track. I mean, a lot of people were saying, oh, the cycle's broken, the 4-year cycle doesn't work. But if you actually look like Stock Money Lizards pointed out, we're doing the exact same thing roughly between these 420 to 455 days that you have until the halving, and we broke down out of this trend line. So, yeah, I mean, if history repeats, you're probably looking at a nice big move over the next year. Now, obviously, we know that MicroStrategy bought a bunch of Bitcoin, 4.5 billion total they have now, 152,333 Bitcoin. So they own a substantial percentage now of the Bitcoin. But are we seeing the big players really coming in, or is it just sort of like the echo bubble, right, of crypto Twitter and everything like that? Well, check this out. Asset manager Fidelity is expected to file with the SEC for a spot Bitcoin ETF as well. So in the past 2 weeks, we've had BlackRock, WisdomTree, Invesco, VanEck, and Bitwise having filed with the SEC. So that's crazy. You're seeing all these guys come out now. And you're seeing confidence go up because you can just see it in the numbers. The share of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust reached a 1-year high on Tuesday, fueled by renewed optimism surrounding the potential conversion of the trust into an ETF. The surge came in response to reports that asset manager Fidelity Investments is preparing, like I just said, closing at $19.42 on Tuesday. That was a 7.1% gain. Keep in mind, these are the trusts in these are the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And they said that in almost 2 weeks, it's surged 50%. That's pretty crazy, guys. And you can see it in the numbers. People are saying, oh, like these big guys, they're not entering. The investor confidence is not back. Okay, well then explain how the ETF race has boosted products by 33.4 billion assets under management in just this month. Okay, so basically they surged 9% to 33.4 billion after rising 69.5% year to date. And products offering Bitcoin saw a notable 12.5%, which is the equivalent of $24.4 billion. Yeah, but nobody's buying, right? Nobody's interested right now. So this is the big news. This is the big breaking news. This is the old twist in the can. I don't think that's a saying. Eric Bolchunas says, just in, Ark has amended their spot Bitcoin ETF. So this is Kathy Wood's Ark to include a surveillance sharing agreement. Okay? So what does this mean? Well, essentially, it means that they're copying BlackRock. So the SEC has rejected a lot of others in the past, right? So let me just break it down for you. When the SEC rejected a Bitcoin ETF by Bitwise last year, it explicitly said that having a comprehensive surveillance sharing agreement, or an SSA, with a regulated market of significant size was one way for the applicant to meet its obligations to prevent fraud and manipulation. This would enable information about trading, clearing, and customer identification to be shared. So if NASDAQ is able to enter into an agreement with an exchange such as Coinbase, that could theoretically clear a pathway towards approval, since it would directly address the SEC's main concern. All right. So, they say whatever. There's still possible manipulation because Bitcoin is traded globally everywhere, right? So this is interesting. So what does this mean? Well, it means that because Ark filed ahead of them, right? So, they basically copy pasted what BlackRock did. So this adds another twist to the plot by the SEC, because this decision is due in August. If they delay, it's a bad sign for approval, unless they delay and then approve BlackRock, which shows favoritism. If they're doing the same exact thing, right, and they have this SSA, and they don't approve Ark, but they do approve Grayscale, that's going to scratch a lot of heads. People are going to be like, why if it's the same exact thing, right? So they say Grayscale decision announcement also plays into the timing of all this. Grab the popcorn. Having to assume BlackRock was already well aware of Ark's filing, they're not rolling out the red carpet for another issuer, guessing Coinbase enters into SSA with NASDAQ first. So he says Nate also brings up another twist. Would BlackRock, who doesn't play, even allow Coinbase to enter into the agreement with another that would help another issuer beat them to the markets? If so, Ark would need another crypto exchange to use. The whole thread in one picture. Yeah, so I don't know. This is getting kind of crazy, guys. It is getting kind of crazy, but like Cameron Winklevoss pointed out, this was the former SEC chairman, Jay Clayton, and he describes the new and deeply un-American ethos of the SEC under Gary Gensler.
Let's take this to a very high level on the regulatory side. What you're hearing from the leaders of the regulatory organizations is, if we're not losing cases, if we're not being pushed back on by the courts, we're not doing enough. Think about that for a second. That is a fundamental shift in how we as Americans view the role of the government. I don't want to be in a place where I know the government is going to bring cases they think they're going to lose. Imagine you're the person who is the subject of that case. Now, we're talking about corporations.
Yeah, to see if they can, and if they're not stopped, they're going to, yeah.
Right, but this is an ethos now, which is, unless we're losing, we're not bringing enough cases. That may be fine for private litigants against each other and think about it, but when you have the power of the state and you're supposed to only bring cases and only make rules that you think are going to pass judicial muster.
So Gary Gensler under fire. Yes, that's right, guys. In a legal document filed Thursday, we have Coinbase raising concerns about the SEC's interpretation of security laws, suggesting the agency was reaching beyond its legal authority. The motion to dismiss argues that even if all the allegations in the lawsuits are true, the plaintiff does not have a valid legal claim. Even if the SEC were correct that the assets and services it identified are within the scope of its existing regulatory authority, this legal action must be dismissed on independent grounds that it violates Coinbase's due process rights and constitutes an extraordinary abuse of power. The exchange's lawyers further argued, well, I'm not really going to go into it, but basically in a nutshell, they argue that they got approved to get listed 2 years ago. So the SEC knew what they were approving, right? They knew what Coinbase did. They knew what their business model was. They knew what coins they had, right? And they said, no, you're fine. You can get listed on the New York Stock Exchange, no problem. And then 2 years later, they hit them with the Wells notice. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, guys. By the way, FTX begins talks to relaunch their international cryptocurrency exchange. Yeah. No thank you, sir. No thank you, sir. Coinbase, unfortunately, starting July 15th, is going to require all traders to KYC. So you're getting a big crackdown globally. It's not just here in the US, right? But, you know, I did want to just end on this. If you didn't see this from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he says, as president, I will make sure that your right to use and hold Bitcoin is inviolable. So look that word up. Very good use of that word. Bitcoin is not only a bulwark against totalitarianism and the manipulation of our money system, it points the way toward a future in which government institutions are more transparent and more democratic.
I'm proud to make an historic announcement. Our campaign will be the first presidential campaign in history to accept Bitcoin donations through the Lightning Network. As president, I will make sure that your right to hold and use Bitcoin is inviolable. You should be able to own your own private keys the same as you own the keys to your car or own your wallet. I will reverse the government's growing hostility toward this industry and keep innovation at home. And I encourage you to expand your use of pro-environmental energy techniques, such as capturing waste methane and using waste heat. However, I want to make one thing plain. The environmental argument should not be used as a smokescreen for an agenda of suppressing Bitcoin. Americans have come to distrust the government, including the way that it has manipulated our money supply to benefit the very rich and to prosecute endless wars. Bitcoin is a bulwark against precisely this kind of government and corporate expansion and intrusion. The public ledger of Bitcoin makes every transaction transparent to everyone. It might therefore be a harbinger of a future in which the government is transparent to the people. Your support of Bitcoin puts you in the same category as the framers of the Constitution that gave us that Bill of Rights, that created these democratic institutions, and you are the current manifestation of that impulse. So thank you all very much for everything that you do, and thank you for being part of this movement.
So that's it for me, everyone. Of course, if you are looking for an alternative to the Ledger Nano S or X, I do recommend Engrave, a little expensive, but it is a very, very secure wallet, and that is it for me. If you are interested in learning how to trade, make sure you guys check out these tutorials popping up right here, right now. You guys are awesome. You rock. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.